Senegalese medical doctor is expected to appear in court as a witness in the ongoing manslaughter trial involving Sena Mumbai and Co. Captain Ibrahim Traore has been confirmed as the interim leader of Burkina Faso after he led a team to topple the former regime. And Ugandan authorities are widening efforts to curtail the newly confirmed Ebola disease in the country. Well, these and more coming your way on The World Today. Hello, this is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. Many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante. And now the news in detail. Now the manslaughter and negligent trial involving Sena Mumbai, Kibili Dembele and Cherno Mbai has been adjourned on Monday. A Banjul High Court judge, Justice Ibrahim Jammeh, adjourned the case to next week Monday to allow the state prosecutor to use the diplomatic means to get the Senegalese medical doctor that treated the late baby Mohammed in Dakar to come and testify. Sena Mumbai and the two others answering to charges of manslaughter and exposing a child to danger, they have all pleaded not guilty to the charges. Mafuji Sise tells us more of that in this report.
When the trial resumed on Monday, lawyer Yahya Jammeh announced her appearance for the first accused person, Sena Mumbai, whilst lawyer Kombe Gay and lawyer Sagar Thomas announced their representations for the second and the third accused persons, Cherno Mbai and Kibili Dembele. The state was represented by the Director of Public Prosecution, A.M. Yusuf. Continuing the manslaughter trial, the Director of Public Prosecution, A.M. Yusuf, had on Monday informed the crowded court that the trial cannot continue because their supposed key witness who attended the late Mohammed in Dakar did not show up due to unknown reasons, adding that they will now rely on diplomatic channels to bring the said Dakar-based doctor to town in order to help establish the cause of death. However, this did not go down well with the defense lawyers as Barrister Yahya Jammeh objected that the purpose of the adjournment was to tender the referral form and not the coming of the prosecution witness from Dakar. Counsel Jammeh further argued that the defendant was not notified of this development before the day's proceedings. She, however, relied on Section 334 of the Criminal Procedure Code that calls for the summary of notice for an additional witness, saying defense were not informed of the coming of another witness from Dakar. It could be recalled that on the last adjourned date, Friday 14, 2022, the state prosecutor, Mohammed Sow, had earlier requested the court to grant the prosecution an adjournment to allow them to tender the affirmative hospital referral document of the late Mohammed through the 8th prosecution witness. But the accused person's defense attorney had objected to the request, arguing that the said referral document was prepared by Dr. Castellanos and questioned why it would be tendered through another witness. The prosecution, however, replied that they will advise themselves either to recall the 7th prosecution witness, Dr. Castellanos, to tender the said document or call the 8th prosecution witness who has the original version of the referral form. Sena Mumbai is the ex-wife of the famous Babukar Keita alias Bob Keita, who was recently acquitted and discharged of a rape charge after a 2-year trial that attracted much public attention. Bob Keita was accused of rape by his ex-wife's younger sister, Fadungone Mbai, who alleged that the late Mohammed's pregnancy was the result of that alleged rape. But following DNA analysis in Ghana, the results indicated that neither Bob Keita nor the alleged boyfriend Pamodu Jom was the biological father of the late Mohammed. The question now is, who is the actual father of the late Mohammed? Sena Mumbai and Co. are standing trial after the late Mohammed was allegedly locked in a car for 4 hours, which resulted in his demise in Dakar, Senegal. Mafuji Sise, Eyeafrica News.
And from the report there by Mafuji Sise, now to some other news across the continent, because Burkina Faso citizens have been expressing their expectation from their new president following the confirmation of Captain Ibrahima Traoré as the country's interim leader. His endorsement came barely 2 weeks after he seized power in the country's second coup this year, but he will be, of course, ineligible to run for the office when elections are held in 2 years' time. There are hopes that the new president will meet up the public demands amid the growing insecurity in the West African country. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Captain Ibrahim Traoré has officially been designated as Burkina Faso's transitional president. He is expected to stay in office until new presidential elections are held.
Captain Ibrahim Traoré is the president who is voted by the majority of the Burkinabe population. He embodies the renewal of Burkina Faso. What we expect from his governance is his commitment to fight against insecurity, to calm the security front, to face the social front, and to be able to calm it through the inclusion in the bodies managing the transition. We also expect him to include all Burkinabes in the decision-making process.
Captain Ibrahim Traoré has just been confirmed as head of state. We will give him his time to work and will appreciate what he will do. In the general interest of the nation, we wish him every success.
A transition charter has been adopted after a stakeholders meeting in the capital, Ouagadougou. It provides that the president of the transition, the prime minister, and several other officials cannot run in the upcoming polls. The next presidential election will take place in July 2024.
Captain Ibrahima Traoré there confirmed as the new interim leader of Burkina Faso. Elsewhere in the continent, the global economic crisis and its repercussions on the Egyptian economy have hit millions of Egyptians' daily mood fixes amid the increasing cost of tea and coffee in the North African nation. Last week, retailers announced a rise in the price of Lipton tea, which has been the second market seller in Egypt, nearly a week after a similar rise in the price of similar goods in the market. However, officials in the Food Commodities Division in the Cairo Chamber of Commerce said in the media statement that the tea crisis was overblown, adding that tea stocks in the country were enough to cover demand for 6 months. Here's more details of that in this report.
Many Egyptians have been shocked by the news of an increase in the prices of tea and coffee by about 18% in October. For most Egyptians, tea and coffee are an essential drink, with an average of at least 4 or 5 cups a day for each Egyptian. Egypt is one of the top importers of the world and the 8th largest consumer of black tea in 2020. Tea is also a main ingredient in the most popular and affordable breakfast dish for Egyptians, namely beans and falafel.
We have to take a cup of tea for breakfast or any dish to feel we have a complete meal. Egyptians love tea. I drink about 4 cups of tea per day and 3 cups of coffee. It makes me awake and in a good mood.
Egypt imports most of its tea and coffee from India and Kenya, but the cost might not be as cheap as before, with inflation hitting a high of 15% in October, fueled by the conflict in Ukraine.
There is a gap between consumption and production, which requires importing beans and tea to cover the demand. Supply disruptions have caused inflation to shoot up for countries that depend on import of grain and food products.
Prices further increased when the central bank imposed import restrictions to prevent the outflow of hard currency and dwindling foreign reserves.
Everything went up, not just tea, food, sugar, prices of all ingredients. But no, I won't reduce my tea consumption. Can't give it up.
The government is taking measures to soften the burden, especially among the poor.
It increased the state-owned outlets and dumped the market with subsidized goods to control the price hikes and also prevent the private sector from market manipulation. The government also offered incentives for businesses to produce basic commodities and reduce dependence on imports.
Though officials announced there's a one-year stock of tea and coffee, they're still bracing for expected shortages of imported goods amidst the ongoing geopolitical conflict in Europe.
And that report is coming from the Egyptian capital, Cairo. Coming back home, oil marketing companies here in the Gambia have abandoned initial plan to cease operation after an emergency meeting with Vice President Badra Diouf and relevant stakeholders of the oil sector. The cease operation was set to be effective on Monday, 17th October. Now, Moses Imendi has the details in this report.
The threat to cease operations by oil marketing companies came in the wake of what they cite as difficulties of the current fuel pricing structure in the country, which to a large extent is as a result of the current global energy crisis. The announcement of Monday, October 17, as the date for cessation of operations by the OMCs was perhaps a leeway for the authorities to come up with creative ways of solving the crisis and avert the suffering caused to thousands of commuters as happened the last time operations were shut down in September. Mohamed Haidara is a representative of the oil marketing companies and earlier on Saturday confirmed the decision to cancel the planned action after a meeting with the Vice President of the Gambia, Badara Diouf.
We've deferred our planned action, and it's been deferred simply because we were invited by the Office of the Vice President in a meeting that he was chairing. And in that meeting, there are other cabinet members, few of them present, with other stakeholders and ourselves. And in that meeting, it gave him a singular opportunity to be able to understand exactly our problems, what we have been talking about, and what has actually been affecting us. And then we were able to show and explain to him probably what he has not been hearing or what he didn't know.
According to Mohamed Haidara, the Vice President vowed to consult all relevant stakeholders in the oil sector and seek out a solution for the crisis once and for all. But until then, OMCs will continue to operate at a loss due to numerous setbacks.
And then we are also able to show him that it is not us refusing, as been said by many people. The fact of the matter is, we couldn't just continue operating, even if we want to, because we have a lot of backlog of LCs, that is letter of credits, that are due for payment in the banks. Some of us have about between 5 to 3 LCs that are lining up in various banks that are matured, and they are charging penalties because they are matured and they couldn't pay them. And as usual, banks will always charge penalties for that. And these are huge losses that we are making, and these losses are not captured anywhere in the pricing structure. And then the other thing is the availability of Forex. If you are in the business sector today and you do import-export, everybody will agree with me that the availability of foreign exchange is a challenge in this country now. So, and that has also posed a serious challenge to us. Not only it is not available, but the rate itself has gone up so badly that central bank's rate on the pricing structure is $55.74 per dollar. But in the actual fact, when you go to the local commercial banks and try to source this dollar, it is not only a challenge to even access the dollar, but the rate is seriously high. They're charging between up to $62 for each US dollar. And this disparity in rates also are huge losses that are not also captured in the price structure. And now the other final one is, even if we said, okay, we will still continue to practice business at a loss, just like how we've been doing it in the past. But if you're not able to settle your supplier, would you be able to get supplies? No.
Earlier on Friday, the government issued a press release in which it expressed its dismay in learning of the OMC's planned action as the pricing structure was done in consultation with the OMCs. Mohamed Haidara concedes to this fact but stressed that the government attempted to outsmart them.
So this time around, when they say it is in consultation with OMCs, yes, it's true. But what we agreed, they forgot to tell the public also, we've agreed on a 2% LC rate to be put on that price structure. What they did, they wrote the figure 2% on the pricing structure, but when you crunch the numbers, you realize that that is a deception. Yes, it is 2% written on that paper, but in actuality, the real value they have actually put in the price structure is 1.5%. Maybe they smartly thought we would not know, but we are very good with our numbers. When we crunch them, we see where the fall comes from. And we wrote to them that that has to be reversed, because that's not what we've agreed. Then, about the Forex, we told them to reflect the actual market value.
He said the OMCs are determined to serve the interests of the Gambian people amid these challenging times, and had the government been responsive, these situations could have been averted. Fuel prices are now declining after many months since the energy crisis caused by the war in Ukraine. But in the Gambia, commuters are still paying higher than normal prices despite government subsidy in place. Moses Imendi, Eyeafrica News.
And you are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Eyeafrica TV, and we are coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. And from that report there by Moses Imendi, we now take a break and come back shortly. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Eyeafrica TV, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. Once again, many thanks for joining us, and let's now look at the rest of the stories. Now, a movement called Baby's Life Matter on Friday convened a press conference to discuss the burning issue of the death of well over 69 children in the Gambia from acute kidney injury. Now, the deaths are attributed to the consumption of a certain paracetamol syrup manufactured by a maiden pharmaceutical company in India. The death of the 69 plus babies has sparked both international and national reactions, and the World Health Organization has issued an alert to other countries to be aware of Aki. The Baby's Life Matter movement believes the Gambia government, through its health ministry, is not doing enough to address the Aki deaths. Mariama Cham has the details in this report.
The government said on Friday that the number of child deaths from Aki has risen to 70. In his address to the nation on October 7th, President Adama Barrow promised Gambians to get to the root cause of these child deaths. There is skepticism among many Gambians who accuse the government of being too slow and lax and seemingly unable to stop the mounting deaths. The Baby's Lives Matter movement is therefore calling on the Gambia government to own up and do the needful, take responsibility for the children's deaths. Nene Frida Gomez chaired the press conference, and while accusing the government of trivializing what is otherwise a very serious issue, she also promised a non-stop advocacy until the time that the government does what is expected of it.
Government mi nga xamne
We have seen that those who are responsible for this act, which is the Minister of Health, are not doing anything regarding the deaths of these children, and they are taking this lightly, which is really painful, which is why we are doing our advocacy and we will not sit and let this happen. We also observe that the government, which is the power above the Minister of Health, is not doing what it's supposed to do towards getting to the root of this matter. The way we see things is that the government is not sympathetic towards this issue as a normal government should be. That is why we came together to make sure all that is supposed to be done is being done. The level of fear and contamination felt by many parents is all too evident across the country, more so for those whose children are sick and undergoing treatment at hospitals. This woman's child is currently hospitalized in a private hospital suffering from pneumonia. The lady claims that her child had been wrongly diagnosed at the Serekunda General Hospital, where she first gone to seek assistance. She pleads with President Adam Barrow to take the concrete steps to tackle the Aki issue. I was told at the private clinic that my child was suffering from chronic pneumonia, and the Serekunda General Hospital was treating the child with different medications. So the private clinic had to flush out those medications from the child's system. My child did not eat for 24 hours, and he was on the oxygen for 48 hours. I am pleading to President Adam Barrow, we women are suffering. When our children got sick, we suffer a lot. We hardly eat or sleep. A child advocacy organization which champions issues of children's well-being in the Gambia is the Child Protection Alliance, or CPA. Its chairperson is Lamin Fati. He urges the government to promptly come up with tangible solutions to the issue.
What is more painful is the president comparing the deaths of these children to the normal annual child mortality. These two are incomparable. These children were not killed by malaria or any other sickness. These 69 plus children were given medicines that killed them in silence. When this woman spoke and cried, all of us in this room felt some pain. There are some victims who, like this woman, can sit and talk. They are lost. But other parents are at home, still too shocked by the death of their children. What the government should do is acknowledge what happened and accept responsibility and come out with tangible solutions to the problem.
There is clearly a possibility that the death toll from Aki may still rise. This is surely a trying time for the Gambia's health sector, and until the promised inquiry gets to work and publish its report, Gambians will remain worried and confused about the safety of their children. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Yahya Jammeh.
And let's stay with health-related matters, but this time in the eastern part of the continent, because health authorities in Uganda have heightened efforts to contain the newly declared Ebola outbreak in the country after several cases and deaths were reported in some part of the country. The outbreak has triggered concern among the public, including a motorists who transport different people to places on a daily basis. The World Health Organization is working with local authorities to fast-track initiatives to develop an Ebola vaccine to stem the virus. And here's more details of that in this report.
Alan Nwagaba operates a motorbike taxi service in Kampala. Every day he gets in contact with different people as he transports them from place to place. With a confirmed outbreak of Ebola, Alan is worried for his life.
It can be difficult for us to protect ourselves, but luckily we have been told about the symptoms and what to do.
The capital Kampala has so far recorded one Ebola death, and more than 40 people have been listed as contacts, according to the Ministry of Health.
That actually worries so much, especially to us people who are always in a crowded environment. For example, school, we always in class, no masks, no any other measures, so we're actually very worried.
I know about Ebola, so I'm minimizing my moves.
Ebola is a hemorrhagic fever that spreads through contact with the bodily fluids of an infected person. The Ministry of Health says it has increased surveillance in areas where cases have been discovered, but other stringent measures are being put in place to contain the spread of the virus, including arresting people suspected to have contracted Ebola if they refused to go into isolation. The UN World Health Organization, WHO, attributes the current outbreak in Uganda to the Ebola Sudan strain.
We need to have a very functional, enhanced surveillance system that is able to pick every suspected case. We need to ensure that every alert that is coming from the community, it is reported and verified. We need to ensure that every contact of a case is identified and tracked for 21 days.
The Ebola Sudan strain does not have a vaccine, but the WHO says 2 vaccines could be put into clinical trials in the coming days.
Once the protocol and the ethical regulations and import permits are addressed, this will be flown in and will be given for immediate contacts which are at risk. In both cases, we hope to get good results which would enable us to have a tool next time Ebola Sudan attacks anywhere.
Uganda has experienced several Ebola outbreaks. The most recent was an imported case in 2019 from the Democratic Republic of Congo. The country's deadliest was the Ebola Zaire outbreak in 2000 in the northern part of the country, killing more than 200 people.
Ugandan authorities and partners intensify efforts to contain the spreading Ebola disease in the East African country. And with that report there from the capital, Kampala, we now, of course, bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on Eyeafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and do have a pleasant evening. Bye for now.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ñu del di leen nuyuwaat fii si Eyeafrica TV